Thank you so much, Billy Rose. Okay, so next, in a sentence, and Ersan, you can take this one first. What is your product?
It is a knife that is used for everyday carry, so it's not a self-defense or tactical anything. It's really for opening boxes and cutting vegetables.
Okay, Chad?
My product is a camping or survival related fire starting tool that combines the fire starting capabilities of a ferrocerium rod with the fire stoking capabilities of a bellows.
Okay. In one, or actually, do you happen to recall your one sentence benefit statement?
Me?
Sure.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember my one sentence
That's
benefit
okay.
statement. If you want to go ahead, Ezra, I can pull up my.
I don't remember it, but I'll read it to you because I was like, oh yeah, that's what I. There were a lot of edits, but it's an EDC knife to capture your heart, which is
an easy knife to capture your heart.
An EDC, which is everyday carry. That's kind of an acronym.
Okay.
Which, in fairness, this is not as good as a one sentence benefit statement can be, but this is a little bit different than normal licensing, which I'm sure we'll get into. But I really just want to capture the emotional side of this.
Oh, that's really interesting. I did not see a statement like that coming with an attachment to a knife. So that's interesting. Chad, we're putting you on the spot. Were you able to pull it up really quickly or no? No problem if you can't.
Here, I got it pulled up right here. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Of course, it's going to take forever to load. Sorry.
No worries. No worries.
Okay. Okay. Start fires faster. Keep them going longer. That's what I had for my one sentence benefit statement.
Very simple, easy to understand. That's great. All right. So, Ersan, how many companies did you reach out to? And did you reach out to them all at once, more or less? Or did you do sort of a wait and see approach?
I reached out to all of them at once.
Okay.
And I'm going to say a number here, which is not representative and which no one should expect, but I reached out to, I want to say 4 or 5 companies.
Oh, nice.
And then usually it's more than that, which I know I've been doing outreach for other products.
So not too painful then. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Chad, how many companies did you reach out to? And was it all at once or did you stagger it and get some feedback first?
No, mine was staggered out over probably like a 5-6 month period. Earlier I had interest from a licensee, and then that ended up falling through. And then later down the line, I found Off-Grid Tools and signed with them. But I would say I had about 120 companies on my list, and Off-Grid Tool was about 110th on the list.
Oh, so, my goodness.
Yep.
So you did the work.
Yep, that one I grinded that one out for sure.
That is amazing. Wow.
I have a question on that. I think you implied something, Jennifer. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Did you iterate, Chad, on your product based on the feedback that you got when you were reaching out to companies?
What was the question?
Did you iterate on the product based on the feedback that you got from companies versus just like, target market and family and friends, but did the company's feedback actually inform some of your design changes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can actually touch on that. So the company early on when I was in the reaching out process, I had found a company that when I first showed it to them, they were all for it. They were ready to drop their listing up on their website, sell mine exclusively, and that was about like the 10th or 15th company that I'd reached out to. So I was kind of shocked by that. Thought we were going to move forward, and then that ended up falling through. But that company had actually sent me some materials to work with that I was actually able to incorporate into a new version of my prototype, which that version ultimately ended up allowing me to license it. So Yep, all those steps definitely helped along the way.
Okay, so that is my question like 11 or something, but since you already asked, Ersan, how about you give us your response to it?
Not the companies. I think this is a really interesting conversation because in Inventright, it's all about, before you get like super committed to an idea, you got to see what people think about it. You got to test the waters. And I think it's interesting because normally we think of that in terms of do market research and see what, other knife enthusiasts would think. But what's starting to become apparent to me is also the feedback you get from the companies as you're trying to shop it around. That's super valuable because you learn some things beyond just, what's the consumer going to think. You learn about like, is this going to be too hard to manufacture or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in fact, yeah, I did get some feedback from my knife. They came like right out the gate. They were like, hey, is this going to be, like, is the clip going to be detachable? Which it is, but clips break all the time on knives and people like to change them out. But in my renders, it wasn't detachable. So there was that, but there was questions about the type of steel I wanted to use and the colors. And it really forced me to think like, what's going to be my strategy here when, like, is it just this knife or am I going to have some different themes down the road and different scales that people can put on? So I think it's really cool, this idea of companies, when you start doing your outreach to companies, they give you some of the most valuable feedback. So, and that's what I'm discovering for some of the other products too.
Excellent. Yeah, if you're lucky, you'll get that feedback. I just want to interrupt for 1 second. I know Billy Rose had her hand raised. I see some questions in the chat. We will definitely get to those. The idea is to first just do this really quick fire round, get all the basic details out on the table, and then we can delve in further. So, we will definitely get to your questions in the chat. Let's just keep going here. So, what types of outreach did you use? So LinkedIn, email, phone calls, and was there one method that you found more beneficial than the others? Chad?
I used everything across the spectrum. I used LinkedIn, email, direct lines. I used the website Zoom Info a lot to get contacts, and also side note, Zoom Info is a great website for building your company list, because there's a section below of competitors when you're looking up a company. That was really beneficial and broadening that list. I even went so far as to on the websites where you can where the contact us, where you can reach out and just type a little message and it sends it directly through the website. I asked tons of websites through there, and honestly, I got a pretty good response rate out of those contact us portions of the website too. I know a lot of people kind of shy away from those, but I actually found those to be pretty effective.
That's very interesting. Thank you for that. Ersan, how about you?
Yeah, for my knife specifically, it was just email outreach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right now the Chinese companies are actually some of the best in the knife world. There's some good American companies too, but that's the main way I can reach them. And another, to add to Chad's suggestion, is hunter.io, which allows you to see, I don't know if Zoom Info does, but hunter.io allows you to see the format of the email addresses at the company. So you can kind of to it like, oh, maybe this person's email is this way. So
that's such a great tip. Thank you for that. And Ersan, you can hit this one first. What marketing materials did you provide? Did you do a sell sheet, pitch deck, video, samples, prototype?
Yeah, I had a sell sheet, and then I quickly realized it's just easier to create this landing page, this website, which is esri.design. I don't know if this is applicable to all cases. But for me, in the knife world, it's less about like I'm trying to protect some kind of specific IP or feature. It's more just the knife as a whole is my, no one's going to try to steal that in the design world. They see me more as me as the asset versus this invention. So because of that, I was comfortable putting it out on a website out in the world so that it becomes prior art. So no, I didn't use a sell sheet after I
Wow.
made it, but I didn't end up using it. So
That I think is the first time I've heard somebody doing that. Chad, what about you?
And my process with this particular product, I used a sell sheet, and I also did a video, like a quick like demonstrational video that went over the key features, and that was, I think, was the most effective tool that I used for this product.
Okay, so with the video, was that a professionally produced video or something you threw together on your cell phone?
That was definitely something we did on the cell phone. We were, my family and I were out camping, and my wife recorded it. I just did a little demo there, and yeah, it was rough, but it was simple and to the point, and effective.
So no bells and whistles, no sizzle per se. That's great to know.
The only thing I had at the bottom was like a graphic that had the name of the product that I was using, and other than that, it was just showing the effectiveness of the product.
Proof of concept. That's awesome. Ersan, did you have a video on your website as well?
Not for my knife, but I did actually create videos for when I was through the email interactions, because one of the features of my knife is it's a front flipper, it's called, which you can also do it from the top. But that's kind of more of a, not a no-no, but that's not an easy win for knife manufacturers. It's kind of a weird way to open knives. So I wanted to show them, hey, actually, I designed a front flipper that you could open from the back, or all the traditional ways too. But I do want to say, to Chad's point, he was out there in the element where you would use his product. And you could say, oh, that's not very professional. But actually, I don't really think having a super polished video is important per se, like with graphics and a logo. And I think it's got to be the right environment, and it's got to be short and sweet. And you just got to be professional when you talk about it. And I think that'll do the trick.
Quick follow-up, Chad, how long was your video?
Mine, I think it was I made a point not to go over 60 seconds. It was right at a minute.
Perfect. Okay. So I just have a couple more questions here about a baker's dozen, and then we'll open the call for everybody else's questions. But this has been really fascinating already, so thank you both. Okay. A couple more here. What about computer tools? Did you use ChatGPT? Did you use AutoCAD, Midjourney, anything like that on your journeys here? Ersan?
Oh, okay. I was like, Chad, go ahead. For the knife, I did not use AI. No, actually, I did. I used AI for some of the email outreach, which I do a lot now for copy, for text. And one of my biggest time sucks is editing content down. So what I do is I'm like, all right, what do I want to say? And I just like stream of consciousness, and I have this thing that's like 500 words long. And then I have in GPT, I have something called Ersan bot, which is, I uploaded a bunch of chats and everything so it understands my lingo and stuff. And I'm like, all right, condense this down in my voice. So I've been using that to create more impactful emails. But that was it for AI. As far as the other computer tools, I used CAD. I mean, this thing which is cool because, traditionally knife designers, I'd say even folding knife designers, whether they're fixed or folding, they usually, manufactured in their garage or workshop. And I don't have any metalworking experience. I mean, I have a workbench and everything, but I think we're at that point now with technology where I can create some really cool renders, and I can show animations, and I can use AI to help me do some cool stuff. I don't have to have those hard skills. And in fact, I didn't do like the bearings, and I didn't do all these sophisticated parts on the inside. I'm just leaning on the manufacturer to do those details and by their expertise. But that's basically it. It was CAD and Photoshop to design some renders up.
And chat. ChatGPT.
So, yep. So as far as what I used, I use ChatGPT, not so much on this product, but moving forward, I've used it quite a bit for like assistance with like product descriptions and things like that, mainly for getting ideas that I hadn't really thought of. I think it's great for that, for generating ideas. As far as the tech that I used mainly during License This, I used Canva, just a website, graphic design website. Just use the free version. I use that for all of my sell sheets, and I found that to be pretty good. And then as far as CAD, I've just used Tinkercad, and then what is the other version of that? Yeah, the Fusion 360. So
Okay.
That's what I used to. Someone asked about. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, those are great tools for the CAD program.
I was curious about the use of ChatGPT. I've noticed both of you have very strong communication skills. Your messages are clear and thorough, and it is such a dream to correspond with you. Running this group, I do deal with a good amount of messages in my inbox, and I'm guilty of doing the same, like a quick, sloppy little message here or there, but it makes such a huge difference when you get a clear, crisp, well thought out, it doesn't need to be over the top or anything, but just an easy to digest message with all the right punctuation. It makes me want to work with both of you guys in the future. So keep an eye out for my messages once I start doing some outdoor gear. Okay, so let's see. I think I have one or two more. Oh, did you guys attend trade shows?
I did not. I didn't do any trade shows. I did, however, have my product go to a trade show after I licensed it. That was with the company. They took it out there shopping for retailers, but I personally did not do trade shows.
Okay.
I went to the one in Chicago. I forgot what it's called. It's like the big consumer product show, Inspired Home Show, which was really cool. Totally irrelevant to knives. I mean, really, like there's the SHOT Show, and so there's some others. They're really cool, and those are the places I would go if I was like, hey, I want to try to contact some manufacturers. But
that would be a good time.
What's that, Chad?
So I would love to go to the SHOT Show. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I really would too. I mean, I've watched so many YouTube videos of it, but I didn't leverage trade shows in my, in my process of getting a license. Okay,
but you still got it done, both of you, which is impressive. So last two questions here, quick ones. Did you spend more than $150 on your product, Ersan? You can field this one first and probably know why.
No, I didn't. And it's someone asked about the PPA. Interestingly, it was not on the PPA, which, if I recall, can cost like $75 to $150, something like that. I did not get a PPA for the knife because, again, I'll get into it more, but it's less of an invention that I need to protect so much as it is my design style, and I'm the asset in this industry. But the money was on filament to 3D print all my prototypes. So
Chad, what about you? 150 or less?
Not quite. I would say between filing the PPA, starting the LLC, and then the materials I used for prototyping, I'd say we're definitely under like $300.
That's great.
That's interesting that you do the 3D printing because afterwards on a future product, I wanted to do some of that. So now I have 4 3D printers, and that's its whole other thing. Side business and all that now. So.
Which is, we need to talk more about 3D printing, but just for the record, I did not use $150 worth of filament on prototypes.
That's a lot of
maybe like $20, but I, just tools and odds and ends. So.
So very doable for most people. And the last question, we'll go with Chad first. Did you become besties with the licensee?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, me and Todd are like this. In my promotional video, he saw I had a motorcycle t-shirt on, so I found out he rode. we've met up and all that. I actually got to meet my licensee. We hung out for the day, rode motorcycles together. So yeah, we're good buddies now.
Okay, and Ersan?
This is a point of difference. I am not besties. I barely even remember who my main point of contact is, because I'm dealing with a Chinese manufacturer and different people, seed, and I'm just interacting with the whole. Actually, the marketing team is the one who makes these decisions. So no, not besties.
Okay, so again, this is a perfect illustration of how different two licensing deals can be. So with that, let's jump into some of the questions. Billy Rose, is there anything that you can, do you want to point to from the chat? I haven't been able to read them that should be answered immediately here.
I mean, nothing immediate, but we'll start with the, I think first come, first serve should be appropriate.
Okay. Sounds good.
Patrick was asking, when you guys reached out, I think Ersan was saying he mostly did a lot of email. Was it all cold emailing?
Yeah, it was. The emails that I was reaching out to were like sales at, or hello at. And I mean, I wasn't just pulling these out of the air. Those were their main customer service emails, or rather their kind of their business development / sales emails, because in the knife world, it's quite common to have knife designers to get their designs licensed. And in fact, there's designers that have knives with 5-10 different companies. That someone mentioned Keanu, who he does that. He has a ton of knives licensed with different companies. So they're kind of like almost expecting this kind of outreach from a lot of hopeful designers, I think. So I don't know how many. I could have been 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 100. I have no idea, but it wasn't cold because they were expecting it. I guess I could say that.
No, and I would agree completely. My experience was the same. Totally cold emails and cold calls, but I like the point that you made, and that they were expecting it. It wasn't something. I only had a couple of companies that I called that they really didn't have any idea what I was trying to do, and I kind of had to explain, what the process was. But yeah, for the most part, they're expecting it. And I did calls as well. I really liked getting people on the phone, but yeah, cold calls and cold emails.
A follow-up for that, do you recall about how long it was between the time that you submitted your initial outreach to the time where you heard back from them?
And me personally, that varied quite a bit. Sometimes I would get an email back that day. Just really kind of depended on the size of the company and the way that they were structured, but I'd say anywhere from a day to never, but a
Still
few weeks.
Still waiting. Ersan?
Yeah, I would say about half of them just didn't respond, and half of 4 or 5. So I got a couple responses, and I would say they responded within a few business days. But based on my my experiences trying to get other products licensed, I mean, at least half just didn't respond ever. And sometimes there's a response like 3 weeks down the road. You just don't expect it, So
I think that answers Michelle's question in the percentage of companies that you had meaningful conversations with. But Chad, would you say it's about the same?
Yeah, I would say so. It varies so much, and depending on how you're reaching out and all of that, I would say a key to that is persistence. If you don't hear anything back, you can always feel free to follow up, or find another contact within that company.
Can I just add to that a little bit? I'm wondering, like, how of the conversations like that you had one-on-one with people, how many of them actually resulted in the evolution of your product?
Okay, I'll jump into that one. I think all of the conversations did, honestly, because any of them that resulted in some back and forth, beyond just like, no, we're not, we're not looking for products right now, which since I got it licensed, I'm trying to get some other designs out there. So I do get some of those. I'm just thinking, but out of all the ones that responded, there's always something valuable, always. Even if it's like couched in the question, like, oh, is this a front flip? Or, is this going to be a budget price range? And that kind of like implies, oh, maybe they thought it was gonna be a budget. No, it's actually going to be $200 to $300. That was my goal. But I think the point is you can probably intuit a lot from their responses. And also you should feel free to ask follow-ups. Like you're never burdening them.
Did you find there was a lot of, maybe it'd be apply more to Chad's case because it's more of a unique item, whereas knives, I think there's a lot of options possible. Chad would, oh Lord, I'm drawing a blank because my bird is screaming in the background here. Oh my Lord, I'm going to come back to that. Sorry, I'm total blank right now.
You're good, Michelle. If you're asking in response to how many of them had a direct reflection on the product itself, I would say I agree completely that any information, any substantial feedback you get from these companies is beneficial. You can use that in some way to your advantage moving forward. But I would say with my product, probably only 1 or 2 company interactions had a direct result on any changes in the product.
Repetitive comments? Like did the people you reached out to, did they have very similar comments in terms of what they'd like to see?
In my case, we're very similar in the sense that I didn't get a lot of feedback. It was either like a yes or no for them. I think my product was pretty clear as to what it was. I mean, there's definitely it's open to some variations and changes. I did have a company that wanted to incorporate different materials or do it a different way, but the vast majority of them, it was just like a yes or no, really.
Yeah, thanks for answering that, and congratulations to you both. Yeah, it must be really great.
It's awesome.
Thank you. And I want to add a follow up. As I'm thinking through this, I don't have a big sample size of companies' feedback, but I have been a part of the knife community for the last year or so. And knife community meaning like people who trade knives back and forth. And I've seriously probably been through like $15,000 of knives where I'd buy and sell. And so it's not an overall loss, but I really got to go through a bunch of knives and learn what I liked and didn't. And the point is, I also developed some contacts through the way, like I would regularly buy from this guy who's had way more in sales than I've ever thought of. He's been through thousands of knives, and this guy and this. So I actually did do a lot of outreach to these knife enthusiasts during the process. And I did get repetitive feedback where, in large part it was, oh, it's a front flipper. That's kind of weird. Or, oh, I love front flippers, which is kind of a unique feature in general in the knife world. And the reason I bring this up is because I know from my marketing background, which is what I do as a day job, it's generally better to be, I don't want to say divisive, but it's to be comment worthy versus like being bland. It's much better to have a product that's geared to our niche versus trying to be all things to all people, because then everyone's just going to be dissatisfied with your product. So that's why I wasn't like, oh, I better get rid of this front flipper. I was like, no, I really want to lean into this and embrace it. So
easier to get your target market nailed also, I guess. Yeah,
and it's also tricky because then you have to be able to objectively say, like, is my product crappy, or are a lot of people saying this is not a good feature and I should try to come up with something better, or does a segment of the population absolutely love it? So
thank you very much.
I see Glenn has his hand raised, but before we get to that, Todd and Carolyn are interested in viewing Ersan's website. I don't know if you're comfortable pulling that up, and I'm wondering, Chad, if you're comfortable sharing perhaps your sell sheet, which I know I'm pulling you off, coming off guard here, but if you have that available, I know a lot of people are always curious about what gets the job done in terms of a sell sheet. How professional does it need to look? Does it, can you throw it together and because the idea is so strong, it doesn't matter if the fonts are silly looking or etc. So I don't know if either of you are comfortable sharing your screen or sharing that information. Ersan, are you comfortable showing us your
Yeah,
site
yeah. I mean,
real quick, and then we'll get
I just
to
put the
Glenn?
link in. Yeah, I just put the link in the chat, but I can also, I can share I'll share the screen and just point out a couple things about it.
Okay. And then we have some more questions from Celeste. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here from South Africa again, Celeste. And Keith has another question. Actually, we'll get to Keith while you're pulling that up, Ersan.
Yeah, I have it up, but I don't. I
Oh.
can't share, so it needs to be enabled.
I have here multiple participants share at once. Does that work for you?
I think so. Let me just try. Yep, that should work. Okay, so yeah, I just have. So this is my website, and it's like,
Okay.
well, how do you make this? I have a background as a web designer and developer, so not everyone can just go and do something like this, but or you can. You just go use Wix and some others. I mean, it doesn't have to be designed super well. And actually, you asked about AI. I did the logo. I don't know if you can see, but I have this enabled closed captioning thing. And oh, there it goes. The logo is AI designed. I was like, hey, give me some flowers inside of a hexagon shape. And so I pulled it into Photoshop and I cleaned up some of it. And I was like, boom, that's it. So that was AI designed. But, this kind of ties into the question you were bringing up about fonts and whatnot. As a designer, as a graphic designer, I can just say, like, you don't have to do a whole lot. I would just strongly recommend a couple of things. One is make sure you got some good margins. People usually try to fill in the empty space, the negative space. And it's actually a term. It's called horror vacui, which is like fear of empty space. But don't fill in all the empty space, because think of like Apple, and they have their logo, like they're the ones who pioneered really in the modern world this idea of a lot of empty space, and that the more empty space you have, the more the perception of value goes up in your product. Like you can think of like if you walk by like a high-end store and their window display, they have like this huge open space and they have like one dress, right? Versus you go into Ross or something or Goodwill and it's just like everywhere is packed, nook and cranny, and that's the same concept with design. So I would just say, keep your message short, simple, a lot of empty space. And the other one big thing is try not to use center align. Like here, it's left align. It just makes a bold statement and it looks better. I know I have center align on these here, but that's a rare thing to do. So I guess this website is officially my sell sheet. So
that's so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ersan.
Yeah.
Chad, do you happen to have access to your sell sheet? Is that something you'd be comfortable pulling up, or?
Yeah, so I'm not able to share it on here, but I did send the sell sheet to the group that we were talking in earlier. I don't know if you're able to share that or not. But I am comfortable sharing it, and that was the second sell sheet that I had ever done, and it's chock full of mistakes. So I've learned a lot since I made that one. It was effective, it got the job done, but the more I've studied that and tried to refine my sell sheets moving forward with the other products that I'm working on, the more I realized the initial mistakes that I made in there. So although it got the job done, there was definitely a lot that could have been better for sure.
Okay, let me see if I can pull it up really quickly. While I do that, Glenn, do you want to ask your question, and we'll get to Celeste and Keith as well?
Sure. I have a question. A comment for Chad, and then I have a question for both these successful licenses. There's I'm really happy for you. On one of your posts, Chad, I made mention that have you looked at your invention for the barbecue industry? The reason I brought that up was there's smokers where they're perpetually loading wood chips or pellets or charcoal, and they have to maintain that fuel because they're smoking a brisket or ribs for hours at a time. And they do have little battery operated stokers where they're blowing air on the fuel. But I think some of it's like a finesse fine tuned thing where they just want to concentrate and blow with your device might have some potential for it. I was just curious if you had looked into that at all.
Initially, I'm getting some feedback there. Initially I had looked into kind of the cooking obviously, you know, when you're out camping, that cooking goes hand in hand with that. So I never excluded that market. I know my licensee is currently searching for retailers, and they're aware of that as well. So I think that's something that they're going to be trying to pursue at some point. So that's a whole other side of it that initially you don't consider. So it's a very good point.
And I
Yeah,
have the
I
sell
just-
sheet. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Glenn.
I just thought because maybe people don't want battery operated things, because usually when you get one of those, when you go to use it, the batteries are out and it's just more bulky than what you have as far as your device. The other question I had for both gentlemen is forecasting of the products. I don't know if there was guaranteed minimums in your contracts, but I was just curious if that was a collaborative process or if the licensee took you through how they arrived at how many they plan to make per year.
So we did minimum guarantees in my side of the contract. I think we just did like it was like 10% of their anticipated minimum sales. I think is kind of how we came to that conclusion, which was it was a relatively low number. I wasn't super hung up on the minimum guarantees in my contracts because I knew this was a new product and it might take a little getting a little footwork before we got a foothold on it.
Yeah, and I'll say we did not do any kind of back and forth on forecasting and, you know, me trying to quantify what retailers they're in or whatever. I mean, these are the company I licensed with is one of the bigger Chinese brands, and that have built a name for releasing some cool knives, but they're still probably like, I don't know, 10 between rank 10 and 20 in terms of how recognizable they are. So it's not like one of the huge ones. But they're just selling it through their website and also through a few of the big knife websites. So it's a little bit of a different scenario than, oh, what's your, you know, how many Office Depots are you at, and a different scenario. But I did, as a side note, I did still have some back and forth where I had this idea. By the way, we ended up agreeing on 6% royalty, and which I think is pretty good. I didn't want to like haggle too much on that, but instead of haggling on that percentage, what I did say was I have this idea as a marketer. You know, I've been doing this for 20 years and I'm going to sell some of these through my website too, so direct to consumer. And I was trying to do a hybrid of what they call OEM and licensing. OEM is where I go to them and buy for wholesale, and then I sell to my consumers at retail and for a markup, whether it's, you know, like 60% or 50 or 40 or whatever. But I was trying to do a hybrid where I wouldn't have to front any money. I wouldn't have to buy anything for 20 or 30K. But I was trying to remember the nuances. It was a really good idea. Anyway, I I posed that question to them and they're like, no, we won't do that, but we will give you a better deal than we normally do to resellers of our products. So you could still, and also there's no minimum quantity. So I wouldn't have to put $30,000 of my own money. I could just, I think it was like maybe $1,000 or $500. So I could just buy the product from them, sell it on my website, my own product, and get a bit of a better deal than most resellers. So, you know,
So interesting.
it goes to show there's always a way to kind of work out a better deal.
Oh, that's interesting that you could get that arrangement. Chad, just for clarity, you said 10% of their typical minimum order. Can you expand on that? I'm not quite clear what that is.
No, it was of their minimum of their anticipated sales. So I think the way that we did it, and we didn't focus on that a whole lot. I think we went off of just another one of their products that wasn't exactly similar, but we just kind of used those numbers on their startup of the sales of that product, which was another licensed product that they had. So I kind of use the same structure because my licensee has dealt with licensing products before. So their initial contract that they sent over had all of that kind of hashed out, and everything after reviewing the contract in that section seemed fair. So we didn't really go back and forth on that too much.
Okay, well, thanks, guys.
That's great, Glenn. Thank you for
Side
asking.
note. Sorry, Jennifer, I keep thinking of other ways I did use AI, and I feel like I should. I used AI to improve their contract that they sent to me.
Wow. Okay.
And I mean, it had typos, and usually that's how it is when you work with, you know, Chinese companies or foreign companies rather. But
Yeah.
I was like, here, first of all, I asked AI, like, is there anything I need to be aware of here? Or, and you can just talk to it like a person. And I don't know if ChatGPT does that now, if it has any blocks where it's like, I'm not going to provide legal advice, but back then it did. And I asked it to rewrite the contract so then I could send it back to them, and I could be like, here's my, I talked to the lawyer, here's my contract. You know, and I mean, it makes you look more professional, but I also got to add in some of my clauses in there and stuff.
Oh, a valuable tip. Thank you so much for that. I have the sell sheet here. I've never shared a screen, so I just hit share screen, I guess. Is that all I do?
You'll choose the window that you want.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, double click. Can anybody see this?
It's starting. Yeah, we can see it now.
So yeah, this is my sell sheet, and it is chaotic, and like that's why I'm like, all right with sharing it. I mean, there's definitely a progression when learning this stuff, especially when you're not familiar with it and you don't have a background in marketing. I mean, so you got to have a jumping off point. I mean, I wouldn't focus so much on having it perfect before using your material, because like I said, even though this, in my opinion, and you know, I've shared this around and gotten some feedback on it since licensing the product, there's definitely some things that could have been done differently. But the point is I wouldn't let that stop you from pursuing it anyway. You can always update it, use an updated version, you know, reach out with new material at a different time. But yeah, I share this basically saying, you know, never stop expanding on refining your materials, I guess.
Thank you so much for letting us have a look at this. It's really, really helpful. I'm going to stop the share and let's get to Celeste, because I know it's like 4 in the morning over there. You're on mute, my friend.
It's not that bad. It's coming up to 3 o'clock.
Okay.
No,
You're a trooper, Celeste.
okay, no. I gain a great deal from joining. So the positivity is all mine. I wanted to ask both of you, please, is there anything that you would do differently? Given a similar product, a different product, but is there anything you would do differently?
I'll jump out there. I would say personally, me, and I guess I view this in a lot of different aspects, but I would say no. I mean, it's been it's been a fun learning experience. I've learned a ton. Just the things that I've learned have branched off into other businesses and other products. I don't know in what way I would have done it differently. And yeah, I'm very happy with the results, and I've had a great time doing it. So I would say no, personally.
I would say yes. There's one thing that this has taught me, this knife, getting it licensed, that I will do differently from now on, which is a little bit of backstory. But I have close to almost 200 invention ideas, and I got a whole spreadsheet and like formulas and like, is this viable for this, and would it do good on a Facebook ad, and like all these different things. And it's just some formulas I came up with, arbitrary stuff. But my knife was not on the list. This was the thing that I was like avoiding doing my other outreach that I was trying to, working with Scott, my coach, on, which was a cool mouse pad. And I made the video and I had some leads and stuff. But this was a thing where I was like procrastinating doing all that to create this knife. I didn't think I could license it. I was like, this is not an invention. But the more I got into this world, I realized this is kind of the norm for designers, knife designers. So the lesson obviously is we all have probably a lot of invention ideas, but the lesson is to just stop and ask yourself, like, what am I excited about? What am I passionate about? Because some of these inventions I have are just absolutely horrible. And the idea, and I don't, just even the thought of working on them and prototyping, I'm like, this could make a lot of money, but it's just such a burden. Don't even like deal with those. Just deal with the ones that excite you. So
yep. I agree
It
completely.
was great. Thank you very much. Ersan, I just want to make a comment about your bonsai. They make a major statement about you. Obviously,
oh, thank you.
Yeah, obviously,
like
design, patience, challenge, all those kinds of good words that also suit inventing.
I didn't notice that's what those were behind there.
Yeah,
Beautiful
awesome.
trees.
Yeah, bonsai is patience is the key, because like it's like 7 years, you make change and it has to grow into it. But I will say this is another good, good anecdote. Those stands underneath the bonsai, those were not a thing that I printed. I 3D printed those and I designed them. It's not because I was like, oh, I want to license this. It was like, oh, I'm sick of not being able to put them here. And when you water it, the water spills everywhere. So those are actually traditional bonsai stands, but they have a space in them so that the water can pool. So it's a drip tray. So that is one of the things that I'm going to probably try to license.
Well, that's a niche market which is begging for that kind of solution.
Oh yeah, I mean, but again, it's like, let's go towards the inventions that just really thrill us, because I think that'll translate to the sell sheet and to our interactions with companies.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jennifer.
Of course. We're coming up on the hour here. I don't know if you're able to stay for maybe an extra 10 minutes, and we'll answer a few more of these questions that are in the chat. Does that work for you guys? Okay.
Yeah.
What am I missing here? Keith asked, did both get a PPA before, during, or after? So we know that Ersan, no IP, no protection on yours. And what about you, Chad?
Yeah, I did file a PPA before I started reaching out. I did go ahead with that process on this product. I do have a couple other products that I'm working on that I don't see it as being as beneficial or necessary, but with this one I did.
Do you did the company want to go ahead and file a patent with yours as well?
So initially we had talked about that, but as another thing Inventright teaches a lot is, one of the greatest protections being first to market. I think they kind of that philosophy, and so we did not pursue the full utility patent.
Okay. Let's see what else. Todd has asked, Ersan, did you already have the product name, or was it decided by the manufacturer?
I decided it.
Okay.
Yeah, In fact, I decided it even before I fully designed the knife. That was part of the vision of it. So
Okay. I heard an interesting tip from Ed Garden during one of his video calls, I think with April Mitchell, who will be joining us in February, which is very exciting news. But he mentioned that it's really important to name your product, even if you're not excited about it, just give it a name so that when the company is reviewing it, they have some way to refer to it. So it's not just, this is like a knife, or this is this fire thing. They can say, this is, the Stoken flame, or I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it. But so that's just, I thought it was a really helpful tip to keep in mind when you're designing your products. Leaveview asked about sending links. So usually Inventright recommends not doing that because people often won't open them for fear of viruses, etc. Did you come up against any issues sending yours, Ersan?
I don't think so. I mean, I didn't interview them. The viruses, I don't want to go against Inventright, but I think the digital world, the landscape is changing so quickly. So I would say, putting on my internet marketing hat right now, I wouldn't stop at that, because they're going to know based on your email that you're a legitimate product developer. So if that's what you need to do, then just put the link in there.
That makes sense. Billy Rose, thank you for being with us. Oh, she's gone. Okay. Christopher has asked, did Ersan present one knife or multiple designs to the company?
Just one, and this is my first knife design too, interestingly. So
Wild.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Again, I was doing this because I just loved it, so I wasn't expecting to license this. So
okay, and then Edgar has asked, Ersan, you said it was easier to license to Chinese companies, ?
I think I may have communicated that wrong in the knife world. And it's not, when we say Chinese companies, it's not in the normal context, like, looking at Amazon, where some company sells a baby toy and it's not even a legible word. The company name is like XOYOT, and it's an acronym, and you're like, okay, this is coming from China. And by the way, I'm Turkish, so in no way like xenophobic. I'm all about loving everyone, but you have to also understand they have different regulations and things, product safety regulations. So if it's a toy that I'm buying for my baby, being aware that there's been lead and stuff, like, I'm going to be more careful about that. But that's, when we say Chinese companies, it kind of brings up that whole conversation. But in the knife world, it's totally different. Some of these Chinese companies are like the best of the best. I mean, they have got the quality down. It's hard for, frankly, American companies to compete with some of these. So, and they're also just taking it to the next level in terms of licensing with a bunch of designers. So that's what I meant by it's easier to license knives with Chinese companies versus American companies, which are trying to build everything in-house.
Okay, Wolfie, I see you have your hand. We'll get to that. But Chad, I want to ask you a similar sort of, well, not similar, but related question. Was there a big discussion about safety concerns with your product? And how did that play out?
Yeah, there's actually there's a fun story associated with that. So when I initially started doing the prototype, I took, of course, ferrocerium is designed to spark. That's kind of the key component here. I took that to a local machine shop, and we definitely had some issues with it sparking and whatnot. And I almost started a fire at that machine shop. And then when we were dealing with the supplier overseas, they almost started a fire in their machine shop. And then we had to jump through some hoops for Amazon, because right as we were reaching out to them as a potential retailer, one of their warehouses had just burned down. So I'm trying to pitch a product and to put into their warehouse that has almost caught 2 machine shops on fire. And there's definitely safety concerns when it comes to that, and it's not even a combustible material. I mean, there's no real hazard of it catching on fire. But yeah, there was definitely some hoops to jump through to get it where it is now.
Was there anything specifically consumer related that they were concerned about safety wise?
I don't, yeah, so as far as the type of hosing that they used, they wanted to make sure that that was all like, you know, food grade safe and all that, just because, you know, you are putting the end of it does touch your mouth and all that. So I
Okay.
think was the only real issues as far as the consumer side.
Interesting. Okay, I did not see that one come in. We'll go with Wolfie, and then let's maybe one more from the chat. So Wolfie.
Hi there. So we had a webinar at Inventright a while ago about the possibility of looking at the numbers of the licensee. So as a hypothetical example, say, Ersan, you wonder, you know, and this, I'm completely making this up. Say you wonder, are they really only selling 300 knives, resulting in a $15 royalty check? Or are they selling 30,000? Now, this being a Chinese company, can you even, is that even realistic? Can you go there and ask their books? And if they show you books in Chinese, is there any credibility to it? So how do you handle it? Is there any way to handle this? And is it different from American companies or European?
I don't think it's that different in the sense that you at some level you have to trust what they're sharing with you. I think I'm not an expert in this by any means, but at some level you have to trust what they're telling you. And I believe there's regulations throughout the world and regarding deceptive business practices. So I don't think it's about China versus US or Europe. But here's the deal, like at the end of the day, and this is what I learned from Inventright, honestly, at the end of the day, the invention is not really the asset. It's me. Again, I keep saying that I have tons of inventions. And so with any licensee, I'm not trying to just get this one idea license. I'm trying to build a relationship so that then we can have a working professional relationship where I can send them like 4 ideas and say, what do you think about these? And I don't have to worry about provisional patents or anything. We have this mutual trust, and they can give me feedback, and then that leads to 2 more products. So that's like my goal, is to have that kind of relationship. I don't know if that's exactly what Inventright preaches. I think it is, because I feel like I brought this up to Scott, my coach, and he was like super supportive. So again, we don't want to get so fixated on, oh my God, is this protected? I mean, you do want to do the provisional patent, I believe in most cases, also because I did it for this mouse pad and it was super helpful in helping me come up with one sentence benefit statement, and just in my video and everything. It's so valuable to go through that process, but it also establishes perceived ownership, which is really valuable to be able to say patent pending. And lastly, I did get asked, for my mouse pad at least, I did get asked by a number of companies who were interested, is this patented or provisionally patented? So for those reasons, I think it's important to get the provisional patent. But I forget the original question. I think I'm at the end of my rope here, but hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, I think
it does mostly. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Wolfie. 2 really quick ones here, and then we're gonna wrap this up. So Chad, any specific warning labels required for your product?
We do have a caution label on the back. Just quick overview. It says generates intense sparks. Do not use near anything you do not want to burn, like machine shops. Use in well-ventilated areas. Do not allow sparks to come in contact with persons and all that. Adult supervision required. So yeah, with it being a fire starting product, there's definitely they got to cover their bases for sure.
Okay, And do you have insurance? Does your licensee have insurance that covers you in any way?
That I don't know, to be honest with you. That'd be something definitely worth looking into. I do have the protection. Obviously, you want to have the initial protection of your LLC for sure.
Right.
You don't want a deal just solo. That I think you should definitely have that basic protection for sure. If your licensee doesn't have any sort of insurance on it, that's important too, I think.
I would guess, not being a lawyer, I would guess that if anyone's liable from any kind of injury or anything, it would be the licensee who's like,
Mhm.
they're the ones who are going to market. It's under their brand. They're manufacturing it. I mean,
Yeah.
unless like Chad would affiliate his company with it or put his name on it, which I doubt. So in that sense, I would think that he wouldn't need it for himself.
I think that's right, but yeah. So again, we are not lawyers. Consult your lawyer for any legal advice, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up now. So I just want to thank you, Ersan and Chad, so much for your being so generous with your time and your knowledge to help us learn and grow. And on behalf of the group, we wish you tons of continued success, and we're thrilled. I personally have about 12 more questions, but maybe when you guys do your next licensing products, we can have you back for a round 2 for that. So again, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
you go first, Chad. Go ahead.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. No, I just want to say thank you very much for reaching out and thinking of us. We're still in the same boat as everybody else. We're learning and all of that. So these meetings are beneficial for me as well. I always take something from this. I've learned a ton from Ersan as well during this. So thank you very much for having us. I appreciate it.
So thrilled to have you guys.
I'm looking forward to being on the other end and asking a bunch of you guys some questions when you get your stuff licensed. I mean, we're very much in a similar boat. I mean, I'm you guys 3 months ago. So
amazing.
Yeah, looking forward to future meetings.
Amazing. I know there's quite a few thanks in the chat if you guys want to check them out. And I'm going to